All right, welcome to Skip the Seminar. We are going digital today. We are talking about the math and the science of retirement planning. So we're going to keep it simple, stupid. We're going to keep it under 30 minutes, and we're going to give you the meat and potatoes without actually serving you meat and potatoes.
I'm excited. It feels nice not being up in front of a room jammed full of 60 people, having them eat dinner, barely paying attention to us, It's a little different for us, but we did seminars for quite a while. They're great, and we're not knocking seminars anyway. A ton of valuable information when you go there. But we actually were given this idea by a client. I was sitting with him a few weeks ago, and he said he came to one of our seminars 7 years ago, and we talked a little bit about that. And he goes, "I really like what you guys put out. It was a no BS, straight to the point. What you really need to start thinking about going into retirement." He said he went to one recently just for fun, and it was like a hour and a half long insurance annuity pitch. So he goes, "It'd be really cool if you could just do like almost, a skip the seminar, podcast or something." It's like, we could do something like that. Let's do something like that. So we're going to do the best we can to really put a bunch of information in a 30-minute, presentation here, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and bookmark this page and come back to it. We will update it from time to time with new presentations, but this one is just kind of like Retirement 101. What is retirement? What do you need to know about it? And I know me personally, I don't want to go sit in a room with 60 strangers and enjoy a steak. So we're going to get right into it. We'll be concise, and let's go with slide number 1. Retiring equals rewiring. This is a whole new world. When you are approaching retirement, you spent 40 years accumulating, working, investing, delaying that dream vacation, delaying gratification, those big expenses. And now you're supposed to just stop on a dime and deaccumulate and start spending your money. And it is a total game changer when it comes to psychology.
Yeah, the psychology side of it's pretty wild. I mean, going from really dollar cost averaging in. So you think about it, you've been working for 30, 40 years, and every month you take a little bit of your paycheck and you invest it to eventually spend it down. Well, now you're going into those years and you're not dollar cost averaging in, you're reverse dollar cost averaging out. It's a big hurdle to clear. It's a really difficult concept, and it's scary. I'm going to start finally spending this down. How much risk should I take? So we'll be going over all of that. And then before we get into that, other side of retiring is what's your purpose going to be? And we've talked to so many clients that have come in a couple of years after retiring, and I'm bored out of my mind. I never really thought about this side of it. What am I supposed to do? I've been working all these years. It gave me purpose. It challenged me mentally. It challenged me physically. And now I really don't have much to do. And our own father just went through this. He retired a few years ago, and a couple of years in, he was just kind of miserable, to be honest. He was coming in here. He was bugging us still. We're like, "What are you doing? You're retired. Go and enjoy life." He was like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point." And he's figured it out now. He's joined a lot of different groups. He volunteers a lot more. He's doing a lot more with the church. He's golfing like crazy. He's really taken that up. But he wrote a what we call the fulfillment factor, and we'll make that available too. It's a great read, and it just gives you an idea of what you should be thinking on that side of retirement as well.
Yeah, if you end up booking a reality check, which you see on the website below here, we'll include a copy of that fulfillment factor along with the copy of retirement approved. But yeah, it is a major transition, and I can't tell you how many times I sit down with a client after their retirement, so their first meeting after they've retired, and they just go, "I'm bored. I just don't know. It's not what I thought it was going to be," and it takes a year, 2 years to get into that groove and get rewired, so to speak. It's not something that happens overnight.
You start fixing things that don't need to be fixed. You're driving your wife crazy. She's like, "Get him out of the house."
Retired husband syndrome is a real thing. But yeah, so let's talk about the math. What is retirement planning? And we thought about this. We said, let's just make a formula. Now, this is way overly simplistic. I wish we could take a financial planning concept and just say, this is what it is. But this is just the key variables that go into retirement planning. So we brought it down to eight key variables, and let's just kind of walk through it line by line. So that first line, you see income plus growth minus expenses. And I would say expenses is probably the most important variable right there.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. Expenses. And that's something, when you're sitting on our side of the table, we run that first meeting with you. we expect you to have that number. And it is somewhat frustrating when you come in and it's like, I have no idea what that could possibly be. It is something, if you're a couple years out, start tracking every expense. Know that number, and not only what you're spending right now, what could possibly change. So break them down into two categories. What are my essential expenses? What do I need on a month-to-month basis to survive? And really think about how those could change. Do you have a company car right now? Once you retire, you're going to have to lease a vehicle. Is that another $500-$600? A year or two in retirement, are you looking to relocate? Are you going to purchase a different home? Could your mortgage go up? Could that payment go up? Give us an idea of what that looks like. And then outside of that, your variable expenses. We just talked about, living a purpose-based retirement. You're going to be doing more, especially in your golden years of retirement. What do you want to do? What is that going to cost?
Yeah, there's so many different directions you can go there. So do you have multiple dream vacations you've been putting off that you want to do, or do you want to coach your grandkids' baseball team as your hobby? Those are very different when it comes to expenses. So making sure you have that lifestyle plan is a key variable, because when we look at the 8 variables that you see on your screen here, we've got income, which you kind of know. You're going to have Social Security. Maybe you have a pension. Maybe you have some annuity income, dividend interest, bond interest, growth. You're going to have some growth, hopefully. We don't know what that's going to be. The last decade, we've been a little bit spoiled, but we can say maybe it'll average in that 4 to 7% range, depending on your risk score there. So 4% if you're more conservative, and maybe we can bump it up to 7-8% if you're more aggressive. So those are the first 3 variables. And then the next 3 variables, you might be scratching your head thinking, what is shocks? Those are unplanned expenses. They're going to happen, whether that's a healthcare event, something happens with your house, you need a new furnace, this, that, car accident, long-term care event. You need to help with your adult children or grandchildren, college. Those are going to happen, so we need to plan for them. Then, of course, our 2 favorites, taxes and inflation. We know those are going to happen. One is more obvious than the other. You see your tax bill annually, but you don't necessarily see inflation on a year-to-year basis.
And you may be thinking too, well, taxes, I'm filing, I have a partner, I'm filing jointly. Yeah, I have 80K coming in. I'm firmly in the 12% bracket. We're not thinking just now. Down the road, a lot of our clients have a goal of wealth transfer. And I was just sitting with a client and he was leaving, 40 grand in the 12% bracket on the table. And I asked him, well, aren't you concerned about taxes on the back end on wealth transfer going to your children? Because that's a goal that we have on the back end for you here. And he goes, no, it's important to me, but I just figured they're inheriting the money. They can deal with the tax bill. I don't want to deal with that. It's like, well, what are they making? He said, well, my son and daughter-in-law combined for, about $250,000. I go, okay, well, we're leaving the 12% bracket, 40 grand there on the table. They're going to be in the 22. So do you want another 10% going to the government? Should we just make the government a 10% beneficiary? Well, now I want to start tax planning that you bring that up. So you want to think about now and in the future. We want to make sure we maximize your wealth transfer as well as minimize your tax bill in the present.
Right. And then the 2 bottom variables there you will see are time and behavior. So we'll get into behavior in just a moment. But time, nobody knows how much time they have. So it could be 5 years in retirement, could be 30, 40 years in retirement. Pretty easily with all this advancements in AI and health technology, we are seeing people live longer and longer. And that's why it's absolutely critical we run something like our retirement reality check. So this is a hypothetical. I know there's a lot of numbers on your screen, but this is just crunching that formula over and over again, year in, year out. What if we did just a consistent 4 or 5% return? How does your Social Security grow over your retirement? Your expenses, assuming some sort of inflation rate. If you do want those pay increases, do you have enough assets to sustain that lifestyle? So right there, you see a big red bar at the bottom, which means this plan is not on a successful track. And what we're looking for is something more like this, where you have discretionary income to spend over and above the essential expenses, and your spendable assets, which is that final column, are growing on a year-to-year basis. So having a number or having a plan like this is absolutely critical. And I know being in the Detroit area, a lot of our clients are engineers and they've got some form of this spreadsheet in Excel that they've tried to make. But come on in, we'll build this with you, and we'll probably build it a couple different ways with the different assumed variables.
I wish it was that easy. You can't spend 14, but you can spend 7. So just make sure you budget, spend the 7, and you're good.
Yeah, and that's why we call it the reality check. Are we being real with this plan and numbers?
Really? So I mean, that far right column, your assets are growing. We do look at wealth transfer, like I just talked about on the back end, but typically what we see is, we have to find that happy medium. And it's not just, hey, we're going to start instead of 7, we're going to start at 9 and we're going to inflate that out. I call it a tiered retirement. So most clients come to see me and they say, well, my parents' health really started falling off in their early 70s. I'm retiring at 63. I have maybe 10 years to really enjoy retirement, do all the vacations and the traveling that I've been putting off. Is there any way that I can spend more upfront? We call that a tiered retirement. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people are scared to do that because it's like, now I'm spending more upfront and I could live 25, 30 years. Am I able to do that and be okay on the back end? And what we do is we go in and we adjust this plan. Maybe we kick up the first 6, 7 years where you're spending 13, 14 grand a month. And then we tone it down to maybe 9, 10. And then you do start slowing down. So we see the expenses come down from there even more. Eventually, maybe pick up on the back end because of some healthcare costs. But again, it's not abnormal. Most clients come in wanting that. They just don't know how to structure that or how to build it out. So that's another thing to really think about. Those variable expenses. What do you want to do? Because what's the point of retiring if you're not going to enjoy it? And in my experience, on average, most of our clients in their early 70s, they start falling off. They start slowing down a little bit. The health could still be fine, but it's more so, I want to make sure I make it to my grandkids' baseball game or recital. It's not, hey, I want to go on the fancy Italian vacation. I've been there. I did that early on in retirement. So again, we call it a tiered retirement. It is very normal. But again, you want to make sure if you spend that larger amount up front, you're okay on the back end.
Yeah, and for those maybe do-it-yourselfers or people that have read about retirement planning, you may have heard the term spending smile before. So where you start your expenses a bit higher, then they go down, 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 and then they come up with your health expenses towards the latter half of retirement. So let's move on. We did the math here. We talked about this formula, and you see that very last one, plus or minus behavior. So you could have wonderful income, wonderful growth, expenses in check, your taxes and spending shocks planned for, live a fulfilling retirement a long time, but behavior can unwind the whole thing. A mistimed sell, moving to cash at the wrong time, or perhaps taking on way too much risk when the market's euphoric. That's where we can see plans really get hurt. So let's talk
about. Are you saying emotional investing is a bad thing? Is that what I'm hearing?
Fear and greed. So let's talk about the science of retirement. And I know this is all easier said than done. And these are the 8 top behavioral finance issues. Let's throw all of these out and let's go with the top 3 that we see. And I'll let you kick it off, Steve.
I think the thing I hear most is, I'm freaking out, man. It's like, whoa, let's go back to the risk tolerance. You said you were okay taking a little bit of risk here. It's like, until we addressed it and said, hey, it's different in retirement. It hits different in retirement. If you're working and you're contributing to the 401k and you have money in the bank and you have dry powder, you can go in and you can buy those dips and you move right through them. You have any type of prolonged downturn in retirement, especially early on, bad sequence of returns, those first 5 years, it's scary. It's different. So you want to make sure that you have a balanced plan of attack.
That first correction is never fun, but it's a good gut check to make sure your plan is appropriate for you. So the second one I'm going to say is, I can't lose. The opposite of I'm freaking out, man. So that's where probably what we're seeing right now with the market running hot year after year. People are thinking they're Warren Buffett-like stock pickers. Markets have ran. They're probably taking more risk than they're truly comfortable with because say they were in a 60-40 plan, that could be closer to a 70-30 plan or maybe even an 80-20 plan if they haven't rebalanced in years. So This is what we call overconfidence. So Steve might have talked about the first gut check there. This is overconfidence, the fear versus greed.
You never want to get too high. You never want to get too low. Yep. And here, when it's like, I can't lose. Everything I pick continues to go up. I mean, look at our average return over the last 5 years. That's the point where you want to start going in, pulling some chips off the table. Let's take some gains. Let's trim some positions. We did it a lot in tech, and our clients are going, why are you doing that? It's like, well, look at the returns that we've had over the last 5 years here. It makes sense. Let's go back to your original answers in the risk tolerance. We need to dial this back a little bit. Valuations are getting quite high. So going back to kind of the original allocation, dialing things back a little bit, making sure that we're not taking too much risk, because clients tend to have a short-term memory too. I don't know if you've noticed that. So it's like, yeah, the last 5 years, the average return has been really good. But this year you look at it, and now all of a sudden we're down 20%. You're focused on this year. So we always want to make sure we go back to the original allocation, the original risk tolerance. It's never a bad thing to go in and trim gains.
Right. So those are number 1 and 2, fear and greed. And then this third one is probably just as dangerous. I'll let you explain it, Steve, but I'll say the name of it. And it's, but my neighbor said.
Oh, this is my favorite one. Because it's always, but my neighbor said I either should or I shouldn't have an annuity. I feel like that's always it. But my neighbor said, okay, it's going to have something to do with an annuity. You know, just because you live on the same cul-de-sac and you have a similar home doesn't mean your portfolios are the same, doesn't mean your risk tolerance is the same. You cannot go off anything your neighbor says. So I'm happy to go over ideas that maybe your neighbor brings up and tell you why they're right or wrong for you, but never go off of anything your neighbor says. Please listen to your financial advisor.
Yep. And that would be, if we were to pick a section on this behavioral finance grid here, that'd be herding, following the herd. Mm-hmm. And that's not what you want to do. Always a recipe for disaster there. So this is the science, behavioral finance, but there's one more scientific element, and that's your retirement income identity, or you could also call it your retirement income DNA, like what is inherent to you. Now, this is a little bit complicated, so bear with me. So this is a framework developed by Dr. Wade Pfau. All this guy does is retirement research all day, every day. One of the smartest guys in retirement planning. You can look him up. He's got multiple books he's authored. Highly recommend any of them, especially if you're a do-it-yourselfer. But let's just look at the grid. The top left section here, that's risk reduced. So you're taking less risk than over a risk-based plan, and then more predictability, which means you're giving a trade-off of flexibility. So that top left grid is maximum boringness, we'll say. And then that bottom right is the 4% approach, which means you're most flexible and you're most risk-based. So this is going to be common for do-it-yourself investors, higher net worth investors, where you do like a 60-40 type plan, 60% equities, 40% bonds, take a 4% withdrawal rate. Doesn't have to be 4%, could be whatever you want. But the lower percentage you take out, the more likelihood of success of your overall plan. And then the other two, so the bottom left and the top right, are some sort of combination or middle ground between those two extremes.
And this typically takes multiple meetings to dial in. Usually, if we're dealing with a married couple, I swear it always works out where one is pretty aggressive and the other is very conservative. So you have to find that.
Opposites attract.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to find that happy medium there. But also we talked about that tiered retirement earlier in the presentation. And if you're looking to spend more upfront, I can tell you we're going to gear more of the portfolio toward income. We're not going to take as much risk. We're going to want to make sure that we're able to generate safe income. Should we see a bad sequence of return? Should we see a prolonged pullback? We want to make sure the portfolio can move through that without taking too big of a hit upfront. So it all really depends on what your goals are in retirement, how much income you want to generate. Are we delaying Social Security? Do we need to pull more from the portfolio up front? Are we going to vacation more? Are we going to spend more? Do we need to pull more from the portfolio up front? So every client is unique. So a lot of planning goes into this.
Yeah, let me just interject right there, because most people probably have an idea of what box they might be in before they even come in. So I wrote a blog on this just a few weeks ago. So the 4% approach, I said, if you're the type of person that goes into Best Buy and buys a new iPhone and they ask you if you want Apple Care and you're like, no, why the heck would I do that? You're probably in that box. And then if you're the type of person that goes to Cedar Point and you don't ride any roller coasters, you're there for the fun, but you don't want to ride the ups and downs, you're probably in that guaranteed income approach box. And you probably know which one you are in or your spouse is in. But I'd say, I don't want to say most, because it's not necessarily 25% is in each box, but I'd say most of our clients, the majority would fall in that blended approach box where you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get some predictability, and then of course long-term growth is obviously important to everybody.
And a lot of our clients too, it's just like we want to make sure our essential income's taken care of, and beyond that, I think we're comfortable taking some risk. So whenever we build out these plans, I just built one out for a client at 4,500 of combined Social Security coming in, and they really wanted another 2,500 coming in. We put a fixed index annuity in place. It wasn't tied to the market in any way. They had $7,000 of guaranteed income coming in that was not tied to the market. So the market goes up, it goes down. They don't have to worry about it. They move right through any type of prolonged downturn. And outside of that, they're actually very aggressive investors. With the remaining 75% of their portfolio, they're willing to take a lot of risk, knowing that, hey, we have essential income taken care of. But again, everyone is different. And I just said that dreaded annuity world.
Yeah. The A word.
Believe me, I get that is a vilified investment. We always, when we build plans out, we get to the point where we bring two plans to the table. Every time we build a plan with one and without one, just to give our clients, just to educate our clients on what it looks like both ways. Because in a lot of cases, again, it comes back to the risk tolerance of that specific investor, that specific client.
You got it. And we talked about how Dr. Wade Pfau developed this framework. So let me talk about another doctor, and let's get weird with it for a minute. So bear with me. Every night, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and she makes me read this book. And this is a great way to explain annuities. There's all sorts of different fish in this book. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. This one has a little car. This one has a little star. Same with annuities. They come in all different shapes and sizes, risks, incomes, 1 plan, 2 plan, safe plan, growth plan. This one has a guarantee. This one has a rider fee. But the one annuity that you don't want is probably that green eggs and ham annuity that gets pushed on you. Do you want an annuity in the rain? Do you want to buy an annuity in a train?
I do not want your annuity plan. Please stop calling annuity man.
Yes, yep. That is the last thing you want, and that's why we build an annuity into the plan. We build one without it. I know it's a scary word because it's something nobody's familiar with when you get into retirement, and then it seems like everyone's pitching them. There's 500 billion of annuities were sold last year, nearly 470 or something like that. And there's good ones, there's bad ones. There's ones that are shorter term, ones that are longer term. I don't think I need to keep beating this analogy to death, but you get the point.
It's frustrating on our end too, because you have so many advisors out there pitching these annuities, but really they're just licensed to sell annuities and that's it. They're salesmen. It gives us a bad rep, which is pretty frustrating. So, I mean, when you're researching an advisor, look into the license that they have, the designations that they have, the certifications that they have. We operate in both worlds. The majority of what we oversee is managed money, but annuities are a tool. In no way am I going to say that they're bad, because they're great for a lot of our clients. For a big chunk of our clients, they're not at all. They make no sense. They're just another tool, and we want to make sure if they do make sense, we use them.
And that's exactly where we go back to that grid, try to figure out where you fall within that, because every client's different. Every couple's different too. Just because you're in that risky box doesn't mean that's where you'll end up. So at the end of the day,
we do this for a living. We do it together. We build plans together. For the last 15 years, we're so different. He's so aggressive, and I'm pretty conservative. I was just talking to him about how 30% of my retirement portfolio is probably going to be laddered bond strategy just for safe income. And he goes, "Are you kidding me? My goal is to get through life without ever owning a bond."
Yes, but at the end of the day, my wife is super conservative. So I know at some point, I'm still in my late 30s here. So at some point, I'll introduce an annuity of some sort, more than likely to give her that peace of mind. So maybe.
But the point is, I mean, there's lots of different ways to structure this, with an annuity, without an annuity, aggressive, conservative. Again, it all depends on the specific investor or client. So don't let anyone tell you this is how you have to do it. This is the right way, because in our world, there is no right way.
Right. And that's the common theme with us and throughout this whole presentation is everybody's different. Everybody's unique. So come in for that reality check. It doesn't have to be in person. We do tons of Zoom. It's the digital age at this point. So sign up for that reality check there. We'll cut through the BS. We'll build out that retirement projection, potentially with annuity, potentially without one, just so you can see how it works. And it's no pressure. So if you have $500,000 saved for retirement, that is our account minimum. It is 100% complimentary. So first meeting is a get to know you session where we go through your goals, your risk profile, your assets, what you think your expenses might be. And then that second meeting is where we'll go through that reality check projection. We'll talk about the fees and the risk that you're taking and so on. All right. I hope you had fun with us today. We tried to keep it simple, stupid. We tried to keep it fun, which is easier said than done. So bookmark this site. Tune in next time, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Retirement Approved is brought to you by Richard W. Paul & Associates, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Throughout the presentation, we may generally discuss different financial vehicles. However, nothing we say should be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle, nor should it be used to make decisions today about your investments or insurance. For full disclosures, check the show notes of today's episode.